Hello everyone, today I am reviewing Super Hot Mind Control Delete. Yeah, no, that's the right term. And I guess I'll make this a dual review since I also played the original Super Hot many years ago, and also at another time I've also played Super Hot VR. So Super Hot is it's a very cool game. It has a very distinct aesthetic, obviously. You again, this really is a very game-esque game in the sense that there is no story. Essentially, that I mean, I'll just go cover the story now since there is none. Is that basically you are in this weird virtual reality game where you're not sure if it's real or fake, but the player keeps on playing more and more and more, and the game is like, are you sure you want to keep going? And it's like, oh, maybe the game is actually real and you're killing real people, oh my god. And that's as far as the story really goes. What really is fun though about Super Hot is that well, first of all, it keeps saying super hot in these big flashing letters every time the game starts or you finish a certain level or something. And so the game itself is very simple. It's an FPS with slow-mo automatically activated. So essentially what happens is you enter a room, and it could be anything from a dojo, a kitchen, a scene from a famous movie, and it's basically just the Matrix game. Basically, everything is enabled to be slow motion. However, what will happen is that you will, as you move, time goes forward. Everything's in slow motion, so it's kind of like the opposite of Hotline Miami in the sense that instead of being everything super fast and chaotic, everything starts off super slow, and it's very almost tactical in a way, as well as an action game, which is, I think, really cool. So there'll be certain mechanics where, of course, enemies will have clubs, bats, knives, and mostly guns. That the initial thing of Super Hot is like, oh, here's the game where you can literally dodge bullets because time will slow down, and so the gameplay itself is really, really, really cool, and the whole aesthetic is supposed to be super, super, super cool and super kind of abstract. And again, is this reality or is this a game, or is it both, or is the game realer than reality? So the one difference between Super Hot and Super Hot Mind Alt Delete is or Control Mind Delete is that the newer version acts essentially as almost a roguelike in a way, in the sense that you kind of have a rotating roulette of different rooms and environments you go through that as the only increase in difficulty is the enemies will sometimes have certain only one part of the body that they can actually be injured or damaged. And also there's actually, technically it's an infinite mode where there's infinite enemies, but you only need to kill about 5 enemies to beat that level. And then within that there's another roulette of 5 or 6 or however many other levels there might be. And as you increase the different nodes and places, again, it's all the same setup and gameplay. However, what will change is the amount of enemies that you need to kill in order to progress. But yeah, the sound effect in this game is also extremely well done. It kind of has everything from the bullets ricocheting to when you pick up a gun. There's basically no music in the game, so it's all very much this is kind of what your elderly parents think video games are, essentially, or violent video games are. This game was designed to be that game that the media portrays games are, to be just this violence simulator. And it is, but it's a very good and very creative violence simulator, because the amount of things you can pull off in slow motion. And again, I love it because it's so just absolutely abstract and weird looking. And that really lends to the, I don't know, the aesthetic or the style of the game. It's very iconic. Everything is white, and all the enemies and destructible things are red. One of the most common issues you'll fall into is that you'll be firing your gun, and especially with shotguns, it'll only have 2 rounds in it, and then you'll be out of ammo, at which point your only chance is to throw the gun and pick up something else. Assault rifles tend to fire in bursts, even when you're in slow motion. If you move your cursor or mouse, it will have an array of effect, essentially. Pistols, you need to wait for it to recock to actually fire again, because again, everything is in slow motion. Which again, it's just so cool to play this game automatically in slow motion. It's such a iconic game, even though it is a very basic, hey, just shoot the guys simulator. Because it is so aesthetically interesting, it actually is incredibly iconic for that. And the story itself is like, oh yeah, I know what's real and what's not, etc., that kind of thing. I know some people really like this game who aren't actually good at action games, because it gives you a lot of time to think, and you get to go at your own pace. So if you want to have more of a challenge, let's say, you just increase the speed and it'll go faster. Anyway, that's kind of how the new Superhot version or game works. The original Superhot was more story-based. You kind of go through a series of levels, and you couldn't. It wasn't really focused on replayability, even though that probably was an aspect of it. It wasn't really built for that purpose. It was supposed to be this weird experience you probably like had once, like, oh, that's cool. But this is played or designed to be played multiple times over, something that is much more, how I would say, drop-in friendly. You have, as you progress through the game, you'll get different upgrades. So as you're going through the levels about 3 times through I'm trying to think of like there's levels and then there's sub-levels, which is just a collection of different levels. So about 3 times through a act, let's say, you basically will get a random drop and a choice of a perk you can use throughout the rest of the act. And that could be, they're described as hacks in the game, and I find that very funny. They would be things like extra speed, instant reloads on kills, greater melee range, starting each round with a random gun. There's some crazier things, like every time you get a headshot, that bullet ricochets to the nearest enemy, ricochet bullets in general, bouncy shurikens, piercing bullets, exploding throwables is a lot of fun. So yeah, there's a lot of cool things that this game does, and it has a very distinct aesthetic, which is very nice. Superhot VR was, at least from what I recall, is essentially the same game as the original Superhot, but just in VR, which was really cool, and I think what really this game's kind of meant for, that kind of experience of like combat simulation, something like out of, a sci-fi Metal Gear Solid game. Like, this is the game that, you usually see in, how do we say, like, sci-fi movies where it's like, oh wow, some generic thing or whatever. This is the game, essentially. And I love it that it's that generic sci-fi violence simulator that, people expect to see at like some underground, I don't know, meth boss's den or something like that. But yeah, no, the game, honestly, it's so what do I think of this game? It's really, really fun. I mean, it's almost a classic at this point. But especially this new version, it's really, really addicting, to the extent of basically, like, I stayed up. I probably started around maybe 10, and I stayed up until 3 a.m. playing it without realizing. And the amount of games that have that level pull, I guess you could call it, are very, very few. And it's so cool, and you just never get tired of it. You just like, okay, oh, maybe my bullet will hit this guy, or maybe it won't. And you just never know what's going to happen. Sometimes you'll fire something, and it'll hit someone you didn't expect to hit. And of course, your reward for at the end of each round is to kind of see everything sped up and fast motion and see, oh, this is what it would actually look like if it actually took place. And then it plays super hot over and over and over again. And it's very fun. And of course, in this version, when you progress through, there are different nodes which give you other, upgrades and perks and stuff. And there's some really cool ones. In fact, there's a crazy one where it's like, there's one where it's a charge attack and one where you can't take damage while in close range. There's one where you can chain your charge attacks, which is really, really fun and really, really cool. You think about how this game essentially is taking a action simulator and just slowing it down. It's taking almost like a component of what could be a much bigger game and just taking one aspect of it. I think that's really interesting because, again, there's almost all these other different modes of playing this game, which, of course, in their own could be their own game on their own. Anyway, there's really not much more to say about Superhot, except you really should play it. It's just such a fun, cool game. And like I said, it's one of those games where I'm going to stay up, really late and not even notice it because it's just so addicting and so much fun. Oh god, there's this one thing where, you can take the katana and you can deflect bullets with the katana. If you can actually, hit the bullet in slow motion, you can actually send it back and ricochet right back to the shooter, essentially, which I just think is amazing and just super, super fun. This is a game, this version of the game is much more pick up and playable, much more like, hey, drop in, play a couple rounds for 5, 10, maybe 20 minutes, and then, leave it be. And I'm so glad this is on Game Pass because I feel like everyone should play this. Are you going to be left with a loop out of mind? Control delete if you haven't played the original Superhot? Absolutely not. It's pretty much the same game, just in a different format. And it's funny that I keep seeing other games and other game publishers do the same thing. One example would be Turnip Boy, Tax Evasion, and Robs a Bank, while Tax Evasion was more like a Zelda-like open world action adventure. They took the combat and scaled it down to a roguelite version. And I just think that's really so interesting that something I would really not mind seeing more of is popular big budget or mid-budget games saying, hey, you know what? We're just going to have a roguelike version of our game and it might actually be better. And I can speak from experience that, I'm not a huge Fortnite player by any means. And when I did try to play Fortnite for the first time, though, I realized, oh wait, this is Epic Games. This is like working on a lot of Gears of War mechanics. I mean, it's changed now, but at the time, I was able to find a playlist which was Big Team Battle, where you would just like go into the actual combat of the game, and there was not a lot of emphasis on building, and the respawn rate was like 5 minutes, so you at least got some kills in, and that was a much more pleasant experience than a battle royale. You die and then you feel like you lose style of gameplay, which I just really wasn't a fan of and didn't like. But yeah, I hope to see more publishers do, hey, we're going to do a roguelike version of this. I don't know how that would work. I mean, Gears of War, I guess that would be Horde mode, and Halo, I guess that'd be Firefight or something. Metal Gear Rising, I don't even know what a roguelike Metal Gear Rising would look like, but that actually sounds like $1 million idea right there. Anyway, guys, Superhot is a incredibly fun, incredibly addicting, and very cool looking game. Not much else I can say, except you definitely should go play it. That being said, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.